Hello, my name's Andy, and I am now a YouTuber about Germany. I noticed there's a lot of people who post about Germany on YouTube, and I figured, since I lived there for 4 years during the 1970s, I want to give people my perspective of what I experienced. The thing is, it's funny because back then there was a Cold War, and it was probably a lot different than the Germany from today. But when I got home, back to America, no one really cared about my experiences. There was no internet. Nobody really asked me about it. And I just kept it to myself. So all these years, I never told anybody. And since now YouTube is full of these videos of people talking about Germany, I figured, you know what, let me tell people my story, what I experienced. Maybe they're interested. Seems like there is an interest now in Germany, more so than ever. So my other videos, one was about the school, the other was about their technology. I'm talking about radio and television and telephones. So you can go look at those videos. But today I want to talk about just my experience in general with Germany. It was definitely not like America, especially in the 70s. Everything was a lot smaller. The refrigerator, the washing machine didn't have a spin cycle, so you had to go and put this in a separate machine, and for, they call it the Schleuder, which was just a machine that spun around really fast and got all the excess water out. So that was a separate machine, but they didn't have dryers, so you had to hang the clothes up to dry, and it was just a big pain. You go and put it in a washing machine, and it was, and then you had to put it in this rinse machine type thing, and then you had to hang it up, and it was just a big pain. Another fun thing was the garbage. Their garbage cans were half the size of an American garbage can, and I go, wow, how are you supposed to fit all your garbage in there? But then I realized, hey, you know what? I don't have that much garbage. And I think it was because the packaging was different. There wasn't so much packaging to throw out. So I was amazed. At the end of the week, I only had a little thing of garbage, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting, so that was different. Of course, their electricity was different. Their plugs were different. Their measuring devices were different. A lot of the brands were interesting. I'd go to the grocery store and they'd have American brands. I remember they had Sugar Smacks, and in America, the little frog on the box, he was a character. His name was Diggum, and in Germany they called him Charlie. I'm like, what? So, little differences there. Same brand, same stuff, but, differently marketed. Of course, everybody talks about how they drink beer over there. My landlord, one day he says, hey, come with me. So I didn't know where he was taking me. We went for a walk, and we went to this place where it was a big, giant, it looked like a cave, and it had a wooden door on it, big wooden door, and he had this old rusty key, and he opened up the padlock, and we went down into this. I was a little nervous going down there, but we went down into this cold, basement, and it was all stone. And then when we were down there were these huge vats of beer, and he had a beer mug with him, and he would just fill it up, and we would, he'd let me taste it, and I'm like, I was 16, and I was like, wow, I'm drinking beer. And it was really amazing beer. It was just homemade. And I think almost every town in Germany has this, where they have a club where, everybody contributes and they make a giant thing of beer and everybody has access to it. And, whenever you want, you can just go there and fill up your mugs and have beer. And, it was homemade. There was no preservatives or anything in it. It was just amazing. And I was like, wow, what a cool idea. And then, I always wondered why they didn't have any drunk drivers. And I was like, well, I was, they told me, when you get your driver's license, first of all, it costs tons of money because you have to take all these classes. But when you do get your license, you don't have to renew it. It's good forever. And if you ever get caught drunk driving, they take it away forever. So no one would ever dare do that. And I thought, wow, what a great system. Holy cow. So yeah, that was interesting. So anyway, I also wanted to talk about the feeling I got from Germany while I was there. I mean, I felt very, very safe. I was in a little town. Everybody knew everybody. Like one time I went to the bank, and I wanted to get an American check because I wanted to buy something from America, and it took a few days for them to issue it or whatever. It was a big giant thing to do. So I gave them some German money, and they said, come back in a few days and we'll have the check ready for you. And so one day I'm at home and somebody's at the door, and my mother goes, hey, the banker's at the door. And I'm like, what? And the banker says, oh yeah, I was in the neighborhood and I have your check here. And I went, wow, holy cow. I mean, I would never see that in America. That was like pretty cool. So that's, everybody kind of knew everybody, and it was kind of like everybody in a town was like family. And it's weird because now I look at Germany and they're so afraid of people filming in public, and Google Maps not having Google Street Maps or whatever, and they're all afraid of privacy. And it's like, but I didn't feel like I had any privacy, because everybody knew me and everybody knew what I was doing. So that's kind of strange. So what else did I want to talk about? I want to talk about the Cold War back then, because there were two Germanys, and it was a completely different feeling back then because Germany was pretty much occupied by Americans. There was an American base all over the place. In all the towns, and every once in a while they would do maneuvers, and you would have a whole bunch of tanks just driving down Main Street, and they were like really loud and and intimidating, but it was interesting because a big bunch of American tanks would come through, and the soldiers would throw like candy and stuff out to the kids. And I thought that was interesting, like, wow, rations, whatnot. And this was in the 70s. This wasn't exactly straight out of, right after the war. This was years later, and it was still going on, And I remember also, like, a lot of fighter planes would be flying around. I mean, jet fighter planes. And I was on a balcony, like on the second floor, and this American fighter plane, came out of nowhere and flew literally like between two houses. And I could see the pilot waving to me as he was flying by. And it was the loudest thing I've ever heard. I mean, everything shook. And I was just like, shook up after that. I was like, I couldn't believe how loud it was. And it was so close to the house. I mean, wow. Holy cow. But those pilots, I guess they knew what they were doing. Some of them, I guess, ended up crashing. But, I don't know. It was shocking and crazy to have this military presence at all times. But, so for one year for Thanksgiving, my mother wrote a letter to the Army base and invited some soldiers over for Thanksgiving and Christmas and whatnot. And it was interesting because they came over and they really appreciated the fact that, they were able to celebrate the holidays, not alone. And they appreciated it so much that, I made friends with them, and they actually took me on to the Army base. And, I was just absolutely amazed by these Army bases because it was like being in America. They had American post office, American mailboxes on. You know, you could actually take an American stamp, put it on, and send it to America for regular postage. Like they actually had American addresses. They had their own zip code. I remember it was 09067. And I was like, wow. And they had their own telephone system. American telephones that worked on a different, you know, it was a whole different system. And, you know, they had their own area codes and, you know, it was just amazing. And then they had their own grocery stores. They called them PXs with all American brands shipped over from America, and they were super cheap. I mean, you can get American beef, you can get American, you name it, it was there. Directly from America. I was just blown away. American banks, like the soldiers could cash their paychecks on base at an American bank. They had a bowling alley, a movie theater, bookstores, you know, even their own electricity. Like they had American electricity there. Like you can plug in American appliances that they took over and, you know, 110 volts, plug it in, worked fine. You know, and like they said in one of my other videos, they even had American television station, you know, on the base that you can watch American television. And it was just mind-blowing. I was like, wow, how is this possible? How could they just take a piece of German land and turn it into America? Literally. Absolutely amazing. So that blew my mind. Didn't even know that existed until I was actually able to go on the base. Wow. But yeah, but going back to Germany, I felt so safe over there. I had a bicycle and I rode it everywhere, every day, and winter, summer, I don't care. I was just out there riding my bike, having fun, exploring things, not having a care in the world. And, you know, they didn't have too much to do. They didn't have movie theaters and bowling alleys in the town I lived in. But I never was bored. I mean, they had a outdoor swimming pool, which was fun. In the summer, I'd go there and, you know, go swimming almost every day. But, you know, I would take my bike and ride into the forest and pick blueberries for free. They actually had public fruit trees. They had apples on the street, apple trees. And you can just, you know, they would fall off the tree, and you, as a kid, I would just pick one up and eat it. And it was just amazing. And I was like, wow, you know. And I would go into the forest every day and walk around and, you know, explore. And in the winter, you know, the ponds would freeze up and I would go ice skating on them for free. I mean, it was just like everything was free and fun, and it was amazing. I was just like, wow, you know, free blueberries to pick, free apples, free ice skating, sleigh riding, bike riding, you know, just exploring. It was, as a kid, you know, 16 years old, 15, I loved it. It was the best time of my life. I would just go around doing things without fear. It was absolutely, wow, I was never bored. You know, of course I was going to school too, but I don't know. I mean, I just got my exercise on my bike and explored and did things and just loved every moment of it. And everything that was material didn't matter to me, you know. I had a radio and I had a bicycle. That's all I cared about. That's all I had. And I didn't care. I didn't really care much about television because they didn't even have much television. I talked about that before. They only had from 4 to midnight and a couple of shows that I really cared about, like Star Trek, that was on once a month. So, yeah. And the food, absolutely amazing. Loved the food there. But I lived in a small town, and it was like a farming town. You know, there was only like 5,000 people there, like I said. Excuse me. But my landlords, they were like farmers, and I wasn't used to that. So one day they actually, you know, they had a garden and everything. It was kind of cool. But one day they brought a pig. They just bought it and they went in the backyard and they slaughtered it in the backyard. And I'll never forget the sound that pig made. It was horrible. I couldn't believe. Luckily, I didn't see it, but I heard it, and I'll never forget it. And they came to me later on with some like German pig meat, and they go, "Yeah, I got so much meat, you can have some." And wurst or whatever they were making, and I was holding it, and it was still warm, and it kind of, I don't know, it did something to me. I was like, wow. For the longest time, I couldn't eat pork after that. I still have a problem eating pork to this day. Very rarely eat it now, if ever. But now that I understand how smart pigs are, and it's kind of tough to actually eat pork at this point. So that was disturbing. There was a lot of things like that I needed to get used to. But what I really liked was they had carp, which I guess is a big goldfish type of thing. Same family of fish. And that was their big thing in the town. Like, they had tons and tons of them in these lakes. And they would breed them, and, you can get it fried or baked or whatever. And it was just, they were beer battered, crusted, whatever, and God, they tasted so good. They were really bony, but man, they tasted really, really good. So I loved it. That kind of stuff was amazing to me. I can't find carp anywhere around here, and I miss it. There was also, I remember there was a pizza place, and it was the best tasting pizza I ever had in my life. And I'm from New York, that's saying something. So it was very thin crust, and the cheese was just amazing. And it's even harder to describe. It was very, like, salty. And I could just eat a whole pie just like that, and I'm still hungry. It was just so good. Go figure. Good pizza in Germany. But you can't get good pizza in California. What else did I really enjoy over there that stood out? Oh, well, I lived in this old house that was hundreds of years old, at least 200. And it wasn't really equipped with central heating or whatever. We had like this oil heat that I had to actually go in the back with a can and pump oil into it from a giant tank, and then fill up all the oil heaters in the house and light them manually. And in the kitchen we had a cast iron stove, and it was great. You threw all your garbage in there, and it was amazing heat that came out of that thing. But if I wanted to take a bath, I'd actually have to have coal. I had to go pick up coal in a shed from the back and put it in a coal oven and heat up a water tank in order to get hot water. And that was a big pain in the ass. It wasn't very convenient. So that was interesting to me, how you had to do some things that are, when you don't have something, and then, you realize you don't have it when you don't have it anymore, type of thing. But all in all, I remember we didn't even have one traffic light in the whole town. I think they actually got one on Main Street now. But when I lived there wasn't even a traffic light. Very strange. It's very strange. And like I mentioned in another one of my videos, my phone number was 549. 3 digits. I still can't get over that. Yeah, so I guess that's about all the things that I could think of right now. But thanks again for watching. I hope you tune in again for another one of my videos. If you like it, thumbs up. You know the spiel. Subscribe, leave your comments, blah, blah, blah. Alright, so until next time, thanks for watching.